You're in your car and drive to work, do you ever wonder about the events that could happen on your way? Do you see or hear police sirens and just automatically think you are safe? Mary Talby is a good example of what could happen on your way to work. Today I'm going to talk about Mary Talby's death and the news that covered it. The speech will allow you to observe the differences between factual information and inconsistencies in the news coverage stories. The credibility of the speech comes from research of each news story and the inconsistencies I studied between them. Mary Talby's death from a car accident was covered by several different news stories. Those news stories were then reviewed and researched to determine the facts and inconsistencies in the stories, and then will be discussed. What could really happen on your way to work? Let's find out. Nick Blizzard and John Bedell, September 12, 2018, explained that Mary Talby was a 57-year-old wife and mother who worked as a real estate agent for 30 years. Talby and her car were struck by a Moraine, Ohio police cruiser. According to Cameron Knight with the Cincinnati Enquirer, the police cruiser was in pursuit of a stolen Jeep and was traveling 80 miles per hour in a residential neighborhood. Talby, a realtor for Iron Gate Realtors for 22 years, was meeting a client in the neighborhood Tuesday when the crash occurred. Talby was first struck by a different vehicle, causing her to spin into the opposite lane, the lane the police cruiser was traveling in. Talby and Matt Burry, the officer involved in the pursuit, were transported to the hospital. Blizzard and Bedell, September 12, 2018, write that Talby was pronounced dead at the hospital and Burry was treated and released with minor injuries. Talby was survived by her husband of 28 years and her 5 children and 6 grandchildren. Blizzard and Bedell also mentioned that the driver of the stolen Jeep was arrested after hitting a vehicle a short distance away from Talby's accident. Now that we have the basic facts about what happened, let's look at the differences or similarities between the different coverages. There are 2 sides to every story. Blizzard and Bedell from My Dayton Daily News and Hager and Smith from Fox 19 Now coverages were very similar. Talby's side of the story of the incident is told by Blizzard and Bedell and Hager and Smith. Blizzard and Bedell discuss how the police are here to protect us, and then something like this happens to citizens under their protection. Hager and Smith describe Talby as a hardworking and kind woman who had such passion. Blizzard and Bedell also cover Officer Berry's side of the story. They tell us that police say that Officer Berry, the officer involved, was well within the protocol when he was pursuing the suspect. Blizzard and Bedell also mention how Berry received permission to increase his speed from 65 miles per hour to 80 miles per hour, MPD's road sergeant. From victims and police point of view, we are going to look at the victim's character. Knight from the Cincinnati Enquirer and Moore from ABC 22 Now questioned the police protocol for stolen vehicle pursuits. Knight wrote that Talby's death is making people ask why police policies could conduct a high-speed chase in a residential area over a stolen Jeep. Moore asked why a life was lost over a stolen vehicle that could have been replaced. From questioning police protocols, we now go to just factual evidence. Lamb from Fox News covers only known facts that were written about the coverage of Talby's death. Quotes were given by Talby's employer explaining that Talby would not be dead if the patrol car was not driving at a speed of 80 miles per hour. The majority of the story covered by Lamb contains factual information and given at the scene and after Talby was taken to the hospital. Now that we have looked at the differences and similarities of the coverages, we can look at the analysis. Let's take a look at the different coverages. Blizzard and Bedell discuss what happened during the police pursuits and the aftermath. They switch back and forth from the side of the police and the side of the citizens. One side that they were biased about was the way the police protocol can be more harmful than helpful for everyone involved. Blizzard and Bedell tell their readers that at least 352 people, including one peace officer and 147 bystanders, were killed in law enforcement pursuits in Ohio between 1982 and 2014, according to the data from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Going into statistical details seemed to be unnecessary in the report of Talby's death because it should be focused on her and what happened. Blizzard and Bedell took it to another level by purposely mentioning these statistics to try to put the blame on the police department. Moore takes Talby's peers' comments on the incident. Moore also covered how Others believe the policies for police pursuits should change. Talby's death was taken as a sorrowful event in the eyes of her peers. Her peers also could not understand how the police let it happen. Dale Toadvine gave statements to the media and more as one of Talby's closest friends. Toadvine could understand police chase if the suspect had weapons or was a clear danger. Dale is not a reliable source, as he is a friend of the victim and therefore cannot be quoted without being biased. Lamb and Knight both had the same quotes from Talby's employer. Of course, Talby's peers are going to be biased because they are the ones who had lost a life. Talby's employer, Stephen Brown, was quoted by Lamb and Knight saying, "You can replace a car, you can't replace Mary's life." Of course, the statement is true, but is not following the law. This side of the story poses a biased perspective because of the relationship of the quoted people they have with the victim. Hager and Schmidt covered Talby's accident as civilians questioning police protocol. Hager and Schmidt also quoted Talby's peers after they heard about the accident. Hager and Schmidt quoted Brown, saying how Mary was one of top realtors in the area and top professionals. Everyone loved her, and she never had an unkind word. This is biased information because it is not able to be proven and only applies that Talby was a good person. Mary Talby died when her vehicle encountered a police car. Talby's death was then covered by several news sources, and I analyzed them to determine the inconsistencies between them. Then the inconsistencies were then discussed. Mary Talby's death was covered in the news by different authors going in different directions. Never trust what you are told or what you read in the media. Always follow up on the sources to clarify that you are receiving factual information.